I decided to join Amazon because back in college, I was really interested in both computer science and business, and I wanted to be at a company that let me leverage both of those interests and talents.
So I joined Amazon as an intern, and at that time I got to work on a software which interacted with hundreds and thousands of network devices. The impact of the work that I did as an intern was huge. So it was very natural for me, the decision to join Amazon.
So a day for me typically is focused on writing code. I try to get at least 4 hours of coding in every day. A couple other tasks that might come up would be helping out with operational issues with websites. So if I have a site that has a problem or a bug, oftentimes I'll be pulled off to fix something related to a bad customer experience. And so my typical day is really centered around driving great customer experiences with code.
I discovered a problem with one of our systems. It was running super slow. So there's this great tool that we use called Profiler, which kind of shows you bit by bit what's taking up all the time. So I pretty much found the issue, diagnosed the root cause, and then after that consulted with some senior engineers, and we figured out how exactly to fix the issue. And we actually optimized the service by like 25%.
A sprint is really taking a certain feature from inception to completion, and we try to do that in 2-week increments so that we can deliver that right away to customers.
Here at Amazon, we work on such big problems of such large scale and complexity that there's no way you can know everything. Definitely always ask questions whenever you're stuck anywhere. It definitely helps and expedites the process if you're also being curious and trying to learn as much as possible.
In Amazon, we have a set of leadership principles which help us guide to make decisions and to move to achieve our goals together as a company. Every single line of code that we write, every decision that we make, every software that we build, even every single dollar that we spend is guided by these leadership principles.
I think one of the things that I like best about my team at Amazon is that they're kind of like a second family. And I think it's really important to bring your whole self, your authentic self, to work every day. And feeling like you have the freedom and ability to be authentic about yourself and what you're feeling and how you are as a person, that's a great thing.
I really enjoy working with my team. They're a group of smart people. I'm incredibly lucky to have such intelligent people just within reach.
And the most important lesson that I have learned here is to have a growth mindset. It is to be able to learn and grow. I feel if one masters that art, there is no limit to how successful you can be, not just in Amazon, but in life in general.
Hello. We hope you've been enjoying the summit. Welcome to our Day in the Life session, a day with the software engineering, development engineering. We want to give you a real sense of what it's like to work at Amazon and what's important to think about when you apply for a role here. First, we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Carla Coral. Haminat means hello. I am a member of the Fernandeño Tatavian Band of Mission Indians. I am currently a software development engineer on the Ring website and the Vice President of Indigenous at Amazon Affinity Group. I've been with Amazon for about 7 years now and a total of over 10 years as a software development engineer. My pronouns are she and her. Next we have Tasha.
My name is Tasha Wallach and I am a software development manager at Amazon. I started just shy of 10 years ago, and I actually started off as an SDE, and I've been on about 5 different teams so far. But now I'm, like I said, a software development manager in the HR space working on software within HR. My pronouns are she and her.
Hi, my name is Gerard Matthew. I'm a senior software engineer with AWS Marketing. I've been with the company for just over 4 years and 11 months. Soon I'll be 5 years and I'll be getting my yellow badge, which I'm super excited about. Now, with AWS Marketing, we help build software products and services, which helps our marketers speak to our customers. My pronouns are he and him.
Hi, my name is Ifanio Parque. I'm a senior manager for software development in Alexa. I've been at Amazon just over 4.5 years, close to 5 years now, and I've spent all of that time in Alexa. A little bit of that time I was working on Alexa Music, but most of it has been in Alexa Video. I run an engineering organization that's responsible for and focused on improving and driving intelligence into Alexa for how she handles video experiences, and my pronouns are he and him.
All right, and with that, let's get started. So first question is for Gerard. What is the best thing about being a software development engineer at Amazon?
Well, we can go a number of ways, but one of the most important things I like is being a builder. At Amazon, we get to build things. And it's an amazing feeling when you start from nothing and then you actually work through the process and deliver it out to your customers. So in summary, one of the most amazing things for me is just being a builder and creating stuff.
Awesome. So next question we have is for Ifani and Tasha, since you guys are both managers. What's the most important for developing an innovative and growth-oriented mindset?
I'll take it in two ways. First, as a manager, I want to talk about how you want to foster growth, and then I would respond as an individual. As a manager, growth means you're going to from point A to point B, essentially, and improving and increasing in what you deliver or whatever you set out to do. And that means you existed before, or you had already accomplished something. So at Amazon, we have a leadership principle called being right a lot. Now, sure, you might have accomplished something and launched a product or built something, as Gerard was talking about. But how do you grow? It means, well, what you did may not have been good enough. So being right a lot for us means we retest, reevaluate decisions we've made in the past. It also means that we don't get very sentimental about the work we've done. Like, you build something and you love it, but you gotta let it go. So what we do is we try to inspire engineers, inspire all of our individual contributors to have that mindset, to reflect on every year, year after year, ways to improve on things that we've done before. Now, how do you do that? Well, you follow the data, right? At Amazon, you hear, let the data guide you. So we instrument a lot of our technologies. We survey our customers to understand how they're receiving what it is that we've delivered to them. After we get that data, we ingest it, we understand and analyze that data, and it allows us to make the right decisions to move forward. And when you do that, then in fact, you might cannibalize what you built before. You might actually have to throw it all out and redo something, but that's how you grow. You get to go from height to height. Now, as an individual, what I try to encourage engineers within the organization is to consciously and continually evaluate yourself. It's not just about getting feedback from someone, but you should actually go out and seek that feedback from people around you, your peers, your mentors, your teammates. Get that feedback, evaluate yourself candidly, and actually take action to grow based on the feedback you get for growth areas, and even if it's positive feedback. And really, as you grow, you help your organization grow, and we try to foster that environment of growth for all engineers and also for the organization.
Tasha, what would you like to add to that?
That was an awesome answer, by the way. I absolutely 100% agree with that. And just to kind of touch on some of the points that you made, I think that you have to start with the right measurements too. You were talking about how you reevaluate what you've done, right? What you've accomplished. But if you're measuring the wrong statistics, you're going to get the wrong results, and you might actually be headed in the wrong direction. So making sure that you are measuring for the things that you're trying to achieve is huge. And another point I would love to add is curiosity is huge for growth. I think that growth can either be fun or it can be not so fun. And if you approach everything with a curious mindset, then everything is fun. It's exciting and there is so much excitement at Amazon. Like, you can do, I feel being at Amazon, you can do whatever you want. Amazon is almost like a huge collection of startups. You can go work on mobile, you can go work on back end, you can work on front end. And if you're curious about those things and you follow that curiosity, you will naturally grow your skill sets. You'll get around incredibly talented people. And when we talk about growth in the company, I think that, and I'm sure you'll agree, that we have some amazing talent here. And so the more time you get to spend around that talent, the more time you get to rub shoulders with people who are, at the top of their game, I think that it also fosters growth. And those people are always willing to extend a helping hand. One of the things I love at Amazon is the mentorship program. We have so much mentorship here. When you start off as an SDE, you're assigned a mentor from the get-go to help you ramp up and get started. And then as you continue your career at Amazon, you can reach out to almost anybody. I mean, I've reached out to directors that would sit down with me personally and give me advice for my situation. So there's so many tools available to grow yourself at Amazon. There's even structured conversations you can have with your manager if you know that you want to work on certain areas of growth, and they can line you up with opportunities. So as long as you're looking for it, as long as you're willing to put in the work, as long as you're looking to grow, you will absolutely have everything you need here to be able to do that.
Yeah, Tasha mentioned the plethora, the variety of technologies that engineers, or not just engineers, folks can work within Amazon. And as managers, we are incentivized, well, one, to grow talent, to develop the talent, but actually to move talent around the company. And the reason folks will need to is because they just are curious about different technologies. And as you move around, you become a better engineer. You get to learn from more people, you get to make new connections, and you grow personally and help the company grow also.
And one last point I would love to make to that is I've had such a great experience at Amazon moving around the company. I've never had a manager say, oh, no, you can't move. I want to hold you on this team for like any intensive purposes. But really, they're like, oh, there's great opportunities here. And I've actually had managers of mine help me find what the opportunities I was looking for to grow in the ways that I wanted to grow. And so I think it's really cool when you're a part of a culture that they recognize that and they want to help you and they genuinely want to find the areas that you want to grow in, not just what they want you to grow in.
It's good. I like talking about growing and all that stuff. One of the things that comes with growth is challenges. So, Gerard, what's the most challenging thing about being at Amazon?
Yeah, there are challenges. There are challenges, and you mentioned it a while ago. One of those that I face particularly is that on an annual basis, AWS releases new services and products offering to our customers. And as a software engineer within AWS, I build using all the services, and staying up to date with all of those services can be a challenge for an engineer. So learning what's the latest thing that DynamoDB has, what's the latest features or instance types that EC2 has to help with optimizing costs. I need to stay on top of that because at the end of the day, it still costs that we need to manage. While those challenges do exist, there are solutions for them. And a few ways that I solve that problem is there's the AWS blogs. And I use that as one medium where I can learn of the new services that are being offered to customers. And I can see where I can use it internally in those learnings. There are also tech talks that we have internally. So I attend those. All those tech talks, for example, are recorded. So sometimes on my lunch break, I would listen to a video that was recorded 1 week ago. There are also principal of engineers at Amazon. The principals engineer on a weekly basis present a wealth of knowledge that is valuable to engineers. So there are a number of different forums that I use to gain the knowledge that I need based on the new services that I'm offering. So that's the one way I'm solving it. So there are challenges, but there are also solutions to those challenges.
I like that. Yes, the Principal of Amazon engineering talks are really fun to watch. Learn lots of new things. And you mentioned that there's so many different tech stacks. So Tasha, what tech stacks are used on projects at Amazon, and how are you working to stay ahead of the next technology curve?
I think one of the things I love about Amazon is we're all about dog fooding. So we use a lot of our own services, which is great for twofold. I mean, if you come from outside of the company and you're used to working on Amazon Web Services, which is, even if you do your own projects, it's free tier, and you can come with that experience and you can bring that into the company and you can start working off of things that you know. So it's awesome that we get to experiment with what we're actually building and making sure not only are we saying this is good for our customers, but it's good for us to use as well. So anything from DynamoDB to S3 or Lambdas, EC2, whatever you name, like in the AWS suite, we probably use it. But outside of that, I mean, we're always open to expanding and trying new softwares. Like we've looked at Go, we've looked at React, we've looked at Kotlin, you know, like any of these new frameworks or languages coming out. If there's a really good reason for us to use that in the space that we're in, you know, we're not afraid to try that. But you always have to leverage something new with its reliability, right? Like if we're running something that's, you know, needs to be running 24/7 or we're losing money, then it's probably not as safe to go with something new as it is that's something proven, something tested. But if we're in a space where we're new, we're launching new products, or we're just experimenting, we're always open to looking at new softwares and technologies. And what's really cool about that is you could be a software engineer at Amazon and working on a new service and say, hey, this thing just came out and I think it solves the problem that we're trying to solve here. And if you can make a good enough case, you know, you could be the person pioneering using that at Amazon. And so it's a place where we are allowed to think out of the box, and sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But like it's you know, like you're not limited to only using what we have here. We can also experiment with other things as they come up.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit from the tech stack to more of the managerial stuff again. So this is for Ifani. As a manager, how do you ensure your team embraces the uniqueness of everyone?
We all have, you know, our own unique backgrounds, and we are a product of that background for where we come from. And I think I'll also discuss this from the lens of a leadership principle. At Amazon, we're customer obsessed. We love our customers, right? And we attempt to anticipate their needs. We attempt to meet them at their needs. And what better way to do so if you have a talent pool that represents or is reflective of that customer base that you're trying to meet. Now, Amazon's a global company, in case you didn't know. Well, and we have tens of millions of customers around the world. And those customers have their own uniqueness to them. They are a very diverse set of people across the world with different cultures, different countries, different languages. And at Amazon, in order to build products that meet the needs of such a diverse pool of individuals, we need a diverse pool of employees to do so. And now, how do we actually get that diverse pool? Well, one, we don't expect them to just come to us. We go find them where they're at. So what does that mean? We deliberately seek out a diversity wherever it exists. We're looking for talented people regardless of who they are, where they come from. So whether it's Grace Hopper, you will find Amazon there. Whether it's the National Society of Black Engineers, you will find Amazon there. Or any other affinity professional development conferences. And universities and colleges, you'll also find Amazon recruiting and sourcing talent from there. After we have the diverse talent, well, we still need to ensure that we leverage that uniqueness of each individual. Now, as a company, we have senior diversity leaders that ensure that each individual has an outlet, has a community within the company. So there's several affinity groups, like the Black Employee Network, that we're most of us we are members of, at least. Within my organization, one, I make sure I have an open door policy. I make sure that each individual can come to me with any needs for consideration for accommodation. And when interacting with teammates, we strive to be inclusive. Now, what does inclusivity mean? It's easy to just say you want to be inclusive, but we actually put mechanisms in place to be inclusive. We have rotations across our team meetings where individual A through individual N, depending on how many on the team, will get to run those team meetings, right? Every Friday, we have a show and tell session where each individual picks up a topic. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even have to be engineering. It could be engineering. It could be a problem you solved. It could be what you did last weekend, and just talk about it. That way, people get to understand you and your background, and bring it to the team. And if you've done a project, you could demo it, or if it's a game, you could play it with your teammates. It at least gets you to connect. Now, all of these, we're there for a shared goal, which is actually building, right? We're there to build. And the uniqueness also shows in how and when people choose to do their work. So we're not perfect, but we strive to eliminate all of those traditional barriers and rules for how and when you get to do your work, and allow people to bring their best work to do it how they want to do it. So what I would do is have a conversation with the individual, agree on what gets to be done, and enable them to get that work done however they choose to. We've found a lot of success. We've seen a lot of success in doing so.
I guess something that you were saying that resonates with me is definitely letting people do the work in the way that makes sense for them. And I know that for myself, I don't always work in the most conventional ways. And that's one of the great things about working here is I've never had a manager try to push me in one direction on how I should do something. And it really is a collaborative effort, like, hey, if this is how you work and as long as you can produce the results, we're good with that. And I think another thing that's really important, something that a senior leader once told me was, if you want to have that authenticity, that uniqueness in your organization, in your culture, that you first have to, it starts with you. And so you have to be comfortable being yourself at work. Bring the you that you have at home, that you have with your friends, bring that you to work. When you're comfortable in your own shoes and your team sees that and the people around you see that, it creates this culture where everybody is okay being themselves, and you get to see those unique sides of people come out, and that is when you get the best work done.
All right, you guys were talking a little bit about hiring diversely, so let's go to Gerard and say, think back on your interview process. What stood out to you the most?
That's 4 years, 11 months ago.
7 years here, so it's been a while.
So, I back then, I can still remember that day of my interview, right? And one of the things that stood out for me was my preparation. I came in prepared. I was like, there isn't anything they're going to throw at me that I'm not going to try to answer, do my best at. But before actually getting to the on-site, it started with my phone screen, right? And my phone screen, I took time to prepare as much as I could. I don't know what question they were going to ask, but I focused on getting an understanding of remind myself, rather, because I was in the industry for a few years before that, remind myself of the fundamentals of computer science, reminding myself of data structures and algorithms, and not just going into the interview thinking that I've been working and that I have it all still. So I took time to prepare myself, understood when I needed to use a particular data structure over the other, remind myself of some of the algorithms that I needed to write, and just prepared as an engineer, like it was my day one. So that got me through the phone screen. And from the phone screen, my recruiter told me about the STAR method of answering questions. What's the situation, what's the task, what's the action, and what were the results? And before my actual on-site, I thought back at situations that I went through and wrote down the stories of those situations. Like, what were some of my challenges in my last company? What were some good things that I did? And answered it thinking of how to answer against whatever question that they might ask me with regards to the company. And I used that method and I prepared for it. And on the day of the interview, I could answer some. There were some things that were asked of me that I didn't see coming and I had to think on my feet. But the preparation, thinking back, was the thing that allowed me to be successful. I would not say that I was 100%, but being prepared allowed me to bring out the best of myself at that interview. And here am I, 4.5 years later, from those early days.
So Tasha, what surprised you the most about after joining Amazon? You made it through the interview process, but right after.
I think the biggest thing was the level of expected ownership. And I think things have changed a little bit since I started, but I felt like I was just tossed in the water and was like, here we go. There was no real ramp up process at that time. Things weren't properly documented. I think we were in a very day one state, honestly, where everybody was on the ground trying to develop as much as they possibly could, and that was kind of at a detriment to the documentation. So I spent a lot of time running around to more senior engineers trying to figure figure out what I should be working on and how I should be doing that. And I kind of just look at the company and where we've come over the last like 10 years. And now, I mean, when you get started, you've got, like I said, you get assigned a mentor, you've got an SDE boot camp that they go through. They teach you all of the basics of what you need to know to be a successful developer at Amazon, the terminology, all of these things, the development process. They got, we have Embark now, which kind of walks you through specifics of what you need to know for your team to properly get started. And so I look at that now and it's, man, if I had had that when I got started, I think I would be a little bit further along. But it's really cool to see that the company has invested in those things, recognizing like, hey, maybe there was more people than just myself that felt that way. And so they actually put together a very structured process for launching people, into their SDE career.
It just so happened I joined Alexa in a similar time where it was a very new organization and there was just a lot to be done in such a little time. We were working on the most exciting features. Like no one's done this stuff before, right? And we were inventing or pretty much building the plane as we flew. I joined actually as a TPM originally, and I was running a program at the time that needed a lot of help, right? And I thought I was going to have a lot of help, but I did have guidance, right? But I was responsible for owning that program for all disciplines across that program and making sure that the program executed well. And I think that's something that's great about Amazon. I was really surprised by the amount of ownership, the amount of great work you're expected to, and when you do, are rewarded for, and the amount of great work your teammates get to do without distractions. And that's a really key thing that surprised me and has kept me loving Amazon.
Yeah, I think that Amazon kind of fosters more of an entrepreneurial mindset than it's not like, okay, I have my boss and my boss is going to tell me what to do. And it's like, what's the best way to do this? I don't know, you tell me.
Right.
You do the research, you find out, you tell me.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes you a better thinker. Yeah. Like you aren't hand-fed answers. You have to go out, you have to seek the best answers, and you're ultimately responsible for the results. And when you have that kind of power and that kind of responsibility, it forces you to grow, honestly.
Yeah, I think that, again, that's one of the best ways to grow. Is you're forced to do the research, evaluate the options,
right,
and present what you think would be the best option to go forward with. And that just fuels you to continuously learn as you go along as an engineer within the company.
Yeah, I love what you said. There's no right answer. There's only the best answer you got.
So you guys have talked a little bit about leadership principles, including, I think I've heard ownership, write a lot, couple other ones in there,
Can't forget customer session.
Learn and be curious.
Learn and be curious, which is my favorite. So I'm going to ask you guys, what are your favorite leadership principles? And we'll start with Gerard.
For me, my favorite is insist on the highest standards. For me, it challenges you to always try to bring out the best in you, and not just for yourself, but for our customers, for your teammates, and that can manifest itself in a few different ways. So it comes down from our design reviews. Insist on the highest standards, like, are we building the right thing for what we're being asked to do, right? Are we building the right products that our customers want? And we need to push the boundaries to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And insist on the high standard helps us get there. As an engineer myself, I code review my own code reviews, because I want to make sure that when I present code to my teammates, I'm presenting what is a true reflection of me and insisting on the highest standard for myself. So I like insist on the highest standard because it just helps me to push my boundaries further. And we as a team, we push our boundaries further to do the right thing for our customers.
I think for me, my favorite is the broadest and almost most vague, in my opinion at least, which is deliver results. Now, I think it's a compound or complex leadership principle because you have to espouse or live all other leadership principles to deliver results. Because one, I think, Tasha touched on it earlier, well, what are you measuring? Well, what results are you trying to deliver, right? And if your results have to do with your customer, well, you're customer obsessed, right? So that's all it is. And if you want to insist on the highest standards, the results that you're going to deliver are aspirational. If you want to think about it or write a lot too, you can tie it back into delivery results. I'm sure you see where this is going. It doesn't matter if you do all this busy work, if you don't have results, then what do you have to show for it? So if you take a results-oriented mindset into a problem or into a space, regardless of what it is, and understand where you're at and understand where you want to go and what results you want to see out of the work or effort you put in, and focus on that, then your chances of success are higher. And that's what I try to foster in my team. Now, I mentioned the word focus, and I want to touch on it because focus is very important in order to actually get to a place where you actually deliver results. Focus is saying no to things that are not important. Focus is avoiding chaos and maintaining harmony. And focus is something that you just have to live with every day and focus on the right things in order to deliver results.
And finally, Tasha, what's your favorite leadership principle?
That was good. You guys are pretty hardcore. Insist on highest results, or insist on high standards, deliver results. I'm going to be a little bit kind of go in a different direction, but I think it's a toss-up between earns trust and learn and be curious. And I love those because those have actually helped me the most in my life as well. I think if you're a curious person, if you're earning trust with people as you go, you're going to have a plethora of opportunities open up. And especially the combination of those two. If I had to really dig deep and pick one, I probably would say learn and be curious because it makes everything more fun. Delivering results is more fun when you have a curiosity approach. And I think insisting on high standards is more fun when you have a curiosity approach. How can we boost our standards? Like what are the things that we're not doing now that we could be doing? And when you think about it that way, it's exciting. And so I just love the principle of learn and be curious because it's a guiding principle. I think that if you can keep a curious spirit, you'll always be progressing on to the next thing. Nothing gets boring, nothing gets mundane. You can look at the same problem with a new lens. And so I think curiosity is huge.
And I know that we ask questions about leadership principles in the interviewing. So what are your best tips for someone who is going to be interviewing as an SDE at Amazon? And we'll start with Afani at the end.
Be prepared, like Gerard said. Preparation, not just about learning the material or learning how to be a better engineer, but learning the process, right? Understanding what the Amazon interview process is. The phone screen, after the phone screen, you might get, depending on what level you're interviewing for, you might get an online assessment, understanding what that entails. For folks that have ever done the SATs, it's standard. You understand the sections, you understand how many minutes you have for it, so you could actually practice and prepare. You could be great at engineering, but if you just don't know the rules, you might actually make some missteps or go into it with some hesitation and make some mistakes. So be prepared with the material and be prepared about the process.
Yeah, I would say practice. One of the ways to practice is to have a friend interview you or simulate a coding interview with you. And that just puts you in the mindset of actually executing when you're actually being in the interview. I see that as one way where you can reevaluate how you're performing outside of the actual live environment, where you can put in practices, see what your errors are, and then work on building those ahead of time. So that's another thing that I would give is practice. If you have a peer as well, simulate actual coding exercise, and then and that should help.
I think I'll speak from the perspective of being a hiring manager when I'm actually looking at candidates and what really sets like a candidate apart. I think as these guys have touched on, somebody who is prepared. Like, it's very obvious when somebody has come and they're prepared and ready for the questions. And it also shows that they're taking it really seriously, right? Another thing is when somebody's gone through the troubles of really understanding and remembering all of the leadership principles, like when I hear those come out in their answers, I know that they've been looking at them and actually studying them and actually evaluating what they've done and how it relates to those leadership principles. I think that's a big deal. I actually kind of wish I had done that a little bit more in my first interview. I didn't even know what the leadership principles were back then, but it's huge, and the company really does live and breathe those things. So that's a big deal as well. And another thing is I actually see a lot of candidates coming in these days that have actually played around with AWS before even doing the interview, and they've done some of the little tutorials that we offer, and they've built some miniature services. And to me, that shows somebody who's willing to take initiative. It definitely showcases their bias for action, their learn and be curious. It answers a lot of questions for me already out of the bat, and I know that if they're willing to, on their free time, dive in to the services that they would be working on anyway, and they have their own experience, it's easier for me to say that I think this person would be successful at Amazon because they're already showing me the traits that I'm looking for in a candidate.
So this is the last question that we've got for you guys. What do you wish that you knew when you were interviewing that you know now? For me, I wish I knew how the panel decision worked. I now am involved with interviewing a lot more, so I know that it's a full discussion of and across, and if I screwed up on one interview, then it's not the end of the interview. You get 5 chances most of the time. So what do you wish you knew going into it that you know now? And we'll start with Gerard.
I wish I knew back then that I could make it. Because preparing, I had that self-doubt. And I thought that I could not pass a coding interview at Amazon. That was not something that I could do. And thinking back, I could have saved myself a lot of stress. Now that I'm here and have worked at the company for 5 years and I understand some of the processes and I've learned along the way. There's a lot of learns that I've done being at Amazon over the last 4 years and 11 months. But it's doable. That's what I've realized. It is doable. It's not an impossible task to get through the coding interview or an Amazon interview. And some of us may go through the imposter syndrome, and that's something that I went through. But it is something that's doable. And I think if I was able to go through it, that anybody can go through that process and be successful with the preparation and the practice and the dedication and will to get through it.
How about you, Tasha?
Oh, this is a hard one. What do I wish that I had known? Honestly, I wish, even before the interview process, I wish I would have known how hard Amazon seeks out that talent that you're talking about. We go to such great lengths to find great talent, and we value that talent a lot. And so oftentimes we'll have open positions, and it'll say something like, okay, you need 2 years of experience for this junior position. And I remember being so nervous applying, and I don't think I applied to enough things that I should have because I didn't feel like I was worthy, like I didn't have the experience. And knowing now, having gone through the interview process and being a hiring manager myself, I know how hard it is to find good talent. And while we may state some of those things on our applications, if we can find somebody that we know that we can say, maybe this person doesn't fill all of these qualifications, but we see potential and we can see that they're learning and we can see that they're growing. A lot of times we're willing to bank on that talent because it is hard to find good talent. And so I think if I had known that, I think it wouldn't have taken me so long to apply, for starters. But secondly, just having more confidence that there is opportunity and that it wasn't, and that there was, like you said, like I could actually, obtain that opportunity and be successful here instead of doubting myself so much. So I think that was kind of a big one for me. And the leadership principles, I really wish I would have looked into those first.
And finally, Ifani.
I wish I had known that the questions you get posed at the interview were pretty much the same questions you would get regardless of what level or what role or what you're trying to apply for at Amazon. Well, maybe not so much for engineering or SDEs, But when it comes to the leadership principles-oriented questions, and the quality of your response is really what determines the outcome. So going into it, you might hear a question like, oh, that's an easy question, I could answer that, right? But it's how you answer it that matters. So that's a key thing that I think people miss, and if for folks that are looking to interview with Amazon, understand the quality of the responses is very important. The second way I'll answer it is not necessarily what I wish I had known, but what I wish existed when I was applying or interviewing. And it is our new program, the Best Fit Candidate Choice Program, where you get to apply once and you get matched with several teams based on a short survey that the engineer fills in on location preference, team type, new team, expanding, and technologies too. And you get to have us do the work for you, so you don't have to apply to so many jobs, and match you to those teams. It makes it easier for the customer, for the candidate, and we get the right talent in the right teams. And nothing better than, like you said, we value the talent, right? Nothing better than having talent in a team that they're actually happy to work with, one that they feel like they decided they wanted to work on even before coming to the company. So I think that's a really cool program, so go check it out.
That actually reminds me of one other thing that I think I wish I would have known. Speaking of applying to all of these different places, I wish I would have known how easy it is to move within the company, because that way I wouldn't have been fretting, did I apply to the right team? Am I accepting my offer with the right team instead of like moving to another team? But because the company it's just so easy to move within it, you don't really have to worry about that. You could get on a team and say, this doesn't really feel like a good fit, but that doesn't mean that Amazon's not a good fit. It just maybe means that that software, maybe that team that you're working on may not have been may not be the best fit for you. And I think that for me has been huge, because anytime I feel like, oh, this might not be a good fit, I know that I can go somewhere else, and I don't have to go to another company. I can go within Amazon and have completely new experiences. And I can leverage any connections I've made before. I mean, it's awesome.
Sounds great. That's all the questions we have for today. Thank you so much for coming to our lovely panel about what it's like to be a software engineer at Amazon.